This is the Orange Network, one source of truth for your one source of truth, as long as that source of truth is HubSpot. This is the Mufasa image where everything the light touches is yours, son. And today, I don't know if would he be Rafiki? Is it Simba? Simba 3 now is out, which is crazy. But we've got a guest in the same ranks as royalty, Mufasa. He is somebody that is an RP strategist. He's been here for a long time. He once built a workflow that taught him how to speak another language. He's the most interesting man in RevOps today. Blake, how are you, man? How was that for an intro?
That was fantastic. I learned things about myself I didn't even know. So thank you, Rob.
Hopefully you'll have the same effect on our audience. And so I don't know how you want to start this. I like to tell us a little bit about yourself so people can care about the stories that you share. I know that's very direct, but you seem like a direct guy, and you just 3 things that we should hear about you. They don't have to be fun facts. Let's get away from that.
All right, I'll do some unfun facts. So my name is Blake. I'm a RevOps strategist. I live and breathe HubSpot here at Rev Partners. Before I got into RevOps, I was an IT guy, so that explains my overall appearance and stony demeanor. I did help desk and just about everything else you can do in IT for over 10 years. I live in New York. I have a wife, and we have fun. We're here.
Nailed it.
I play guitar and not very well.
Yeah. I have a Martin behind me here. Maybe during a commercial, one of our commercial sponsors can be just me playing guitar. We'll try that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's weird how many musicians are at RP. A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of that thought. This is not a breaking story. So as you've grown to know and love HubSpot, usually we start these with kind of show me what you brought today. There's always some really cool trick. I know you're going to talk to us about reporting tips and custom reporting tips and tricks. But in an effort to make everybody really won over to your way of thinking, let's do the other segment first, which is something that I like to call, this will blow your mind. Our guest today, Blake, does not, I just want you to tell people, bluff your opinion on AI, and we'll discuss it from there.
All right, bluff is AI is a bubble. So I think everyone's talking about it right now. Everyone's doing it right now. No one wants to get behind on it right now. Billions of dollars are getting poured into it right now. It has all the signs of a bubble. No one's actually making money at AI yet. And I think in 6 to 9 months, it is going to, AI as it's being discussed right now is going to blow over. Let's put it that way.
Man, I like the hot take. I would say it's definitely not in the majority opinion, but a bubble like housing economic crisis, 2008 kind of bubble, or what are we?
I'm thinking late 90s .com bubble. Which we were little kids for, I believe, but it's stuck with me a long time being in the IT world. It's going to be here to stay. AI will be around, but not in the form that everyone thinks it's going to be. Let's put it that way.
That is terrifying, and I've seen all the Terminators, so I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but it does. I think if that does anything to set the stage for this series of opinions and for RP, if I can transition that, is that a lot of what we have to say and offer to people isn't necessarily popular, but we do provide a lot of recommendations. The AI thing, just one note to me, it's mentioned this earlier. I just don't trust whatever it is. I'm not smart enough to trust it yet. So whether it's people like me ruining the bubble for everybody else, or if this is Bitcoin part 2, or if there's more to be determined, I agree. I think in 6 to 9 months, you'll be the smartest person I know or the dumbest person I know, and I'll still know you, which I'll consider a win.
Yeah.
We've got some HubSpot stuff today.
Yeah.
Custom reporting tips and tricks. You have something to show us. Let's hop right into it.
Let's do it. So, using and abusing custom reporting for fun and profit, I think is what we're going to call this segment. There are a lot of cool things you can do with custom reports that are not obvious at first. I got one example on the screen here, which is a win rate. So everyone wants to know their win rate, right, in their sales pipeline. How do we do that? It's actually pretty simple. When you open up a custom report, all you need to do is take this new HubSpot property that's just started showing up, which is called is closed won numeric. So this tells us right here, it's 1 if the deal is closed won, otherwise it is 0. So all you need to do is tell HubSpot to take the average of that property, and it's going to give you a win rate. Now, the trick to this is that you have to get your denominator correct, right? So if you're dividing one number by the other, the one on the bottom, how do you know what you want to divide this number into? Well, that's what you set up in your filters. We're taking all of the closed won or closed lost. So we're not looking at any currently open deals. Those don't count in the win rate yet. And then we're looking at all of the deals that have closed this year, and we're putting those on the chart by month. So it's taking all of the deals that are closed won, which that property is giving us by putting a 1 there, and dividing it by all of the deals that have closed altogether. And it's spitting out this nice clean win rate percentage by month for us.
And I'm sure you can filter it further, segment further from there, from into deal type or deal. Yeah, that seems really, maybe obvious is the wrong word, but it seems really intuitive to be able to just divide into close one for the month, almost like an aggregate total. Could you do it month, quarter, however you want to segment that based on time domain?
Yep, exactly. Do month, quarter, year, week, if you really want to. What I just did right now is I am unstacking this chart to break down. This particular client uses this deal structure property to segment out their business. So now we have the win rate segmented out into those two categories, and you can compare them right side by side.
And what sort of how'd you stumble upon this? You said the trick is the denominator. Is this something that would be of value to people as a light bulb moment? Oh man, this seems like a cool trick. I didn't have to go through an entire certification course. How'd you stumble into this as something that seems so easy for you to set up?
I'm trying to remember exactly. I had one of my clients from last year was really big into reporting, and they were having to do a lot of exporting to Excel to get these kind of numbers. So you'd have to export all your deals, or build reports that give you the numbers, but then you still had to plug them into Excel to get the graphs and the percentages. And so I just figured, I don't know, it just came to me one day when I was in the shower, probably, where all my good ideas come in.
Shower solution one. Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, can confirm. Yeah, even our Nelson Senior Spielbergo says can confirm best ideas come in the shower. So how much bigger could this seems pretty? Are there any other uses that you figured out, and this just be an easy example to demonstrate?
Yeah, so this is bare minimum stuff. You want to see win rate, you can break this up by sales rep, by AE, by deal source, by deal type, all that good stuff.
That's where the question was going more towards on use cases for different tiers of individuals, like a manager being able to break win rate per deal and segment it across geo or across rep or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now we can take this one step further, and we can actually derive a net revenue retention number directly in a HubSpot report.
Are you serious?
I know
Shadab. Okay, this is good stuff. Keep going.
We can get a net revenue retention number directly in a HubSpot report. And I'll show you
say that again for the people that are still trying to process that. Net revenue retention in HubSpot.
Native, no spreadsheets, no muss, no fuss, just a number.
Yeah, so now you should just talk through what we're seeing right now and all of the different things you did. I assume there's another trick, and it's more than the denominator to get that.
So I had to trick HubSpot into giving me the numerator and the denominator. So net revenue retention is your ending net revenue, which includes upgrades, downgrades, and churn, divided by your starting net revenue, correct? Multiplied by 100 for a percentage. So what I needed to do was we have to track both of those things. So in this case, this partner uses a renewal pipeline. As soon as a deal goes closed won, there's a 1-year renewal cycle. A deal is automatically created in their renewal pipeline with the original amount. As it goes through the renewal process, they add or remove line items to get the retention amount, which is what the net contract value is going to be at the end. And so what I did is created a property called net revenue retention. And all this does is it divides the original amount, it divides the new amount by the original amount. So that gives us the NRR number. And then I also have this retention revenue, the retention amount. So this is the final amount of the deal if the deal is either won or still open. If the deal goes closed lost, meaning they did not renew, it goes to 0. So this gives us this chart. So we have the starting amount, we have the ending amount, And then we have the average of that percentage, the net revenue retention, gives us actually an NRR figure for that quarter, for that time period.
That's sick. Which is 103 plus. Yeah, I have so many questions. I don't know if we have time to get into any or all of them. How useful is this to a business? Let's just start there.
So this is hugely useful to business. This is for a SaaS company or anybody that does recurring contracts that they expect to renew indefinitely. NRR is your North Star. It's telling you, is your business growing, shrinking, or staying the same, and by how much? So 100 means you renewed 100%. NRR means you renewed every dollar that came in, or you had enough upgrades to cover any churn or downgrades. If the number is higher, that means you're growing. So like a high growth SaaS business, I think I've heard numbers of 150% for NRR if they're a real high growth company. Service businesses like ours can be a little bit lower, but in general, the higher this number, the faster the business is growing.
And so all of the rest of that, leads into what I feel like help do people the best, but that's great. How do we know it's accurate? Like, how do you know these numbers are accurate? Because there's a ton of stuff, I imagine, sprint points upon hours upon all of that to get the setup and framework and the input of data to a spot where you feel, let's say 98, 99% confident that what is being shown accurately reflects the state of the business. How much work is that? More than a denominator, trick.
That is the denominator trick, is getting people to use the platform so that the numbers you're putting in are coming out. In this case, this partner actually is their team is in general is very precise. So they're doing a very good job of updating the CRM. But the two things that I recommend are, one is having data hygiene report. So for example, someone brought up, when I showed this to them, what if someone didn't close out a renewal deal that should have been closed out? It's going to mess up the numbers. So I just created a report that said, hey, show me any renewal deal that is past its close date that's still open. And guess what? They didn't have any. So they did pretty good there.
Yep.
So good job on this client. The other piece is, once we can trust the report, is then having management and leadership use the report to guide the narrative with their team. So showing this report in their monthly sales meeting and their weekly sales meeting. And if a salesperson or whoever says, hey, I don't think this report is right, then you say, why isn't the report right? They said, well, there's this big deal that it didn't show up in here. And you say, well, I didn't show up in here because they didn't follow the process. So once that is reinforced, that there's a certain set of steps to get the number to show up on the report, and that's going to be how you look in your weekly meeting. That's going to how you look to leadership. Adoption very quickly follows, I've found.
Yes. And so I'm glad you started going there. The other question I had, we can spend a ton of time on the framework for this. And I know that we're currently working on finalizing the playbook on how to get to the point where you can show this to a partner or to yourself, to your own team. Part of what I wanted to ask is, this tells a story, even if I can't read some of the X, Y axis, but it does tell a story of a company's fiscal year of growth. How much can you rank, or can you explain the differences in value from just having the data points here and then you being able to tell contextually, how am I supposed to feel when I look at these numbers?
I want to say this. Numbers don't mean anything without context, right? Like for this business, I happen to know that $1 million a quarter is basically right where they want to be as far as their growth targets and everything. And they will know that when they look at this report. But for somebody just looking at it, that's the context that is missing, or that would be missing if you just looked at this report by itself, is where does this fit in with your goals, with your growth strategy, with where you want to be. That tells you, is 103% NRR in Q1, is that good or bad? And
yes.
So, in this business, they happen to actually have a very cyclical growth cycle. I don't want to get too much into it, but basically they expect a huge amount of deals to come in September, for example. And so they have a goal that represents that. So they know that they have this much time to get to that goal. And that tells us whether the numbers are good, bad, or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier high growth SaaS companies, 140, 150%, some of those numbers. But that's use case specific depending on the priorities of the business, where that might not be what they want or are capable of handling as far as growth goes right now, which I mean, all that's important. Whether I don't know the story, you do, and I would tell anybody listening that the data points there's more context to them. You could put this in front of one founder and be like, oh, we're tanking. We're not. We could be leveraging other things, but I'm sure contextually this makes a lot more sense. Now, what else do you have? Because it is time for a break from our sponsors, me and the RP Media team, by the way. If you want to take a minute and 30 to bring up something new, or is there more to NRR on this tips and tricks portion?
That's what I have. I've talked about using the custom report functions, using calculated properties. You can make HubSpot tell you what you want it to tell you if you know where to look.
We drafted our fantasy football league using HubSpot and a random number generator and a really cool workflow that David Melton, MBA, built. So yes, I agree with that. Have you seen HubSpot lately? We'll take a quick break. We're back. I'll take this off for a minute for some reaction. What was that?
Wow. I'm just really happy that I only have one more thing to say after this, because there's no way I could have followed that.
The point is, we're not a media company. I mean, I feel like we probably could be. That was fantastic. Nelson, can you chime in with some feedback from your perspective on that absolute legendary inbound recap?
We're not a media company yet. Hey.
And there you have it.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Anyway, shout out Mizzy, Igor, Nelson on that. That was pretty wild. So departing from that, we're not a media company, but we are a RevOps shop using HubSpot. We help people, hopefully more so than anything, start to recognize their CRM is a project, here we go. That is a product, not a project, needs an owner. If you hop into some of this stuff with a finite date in mind, it's not going to work out as well. And that's across the board. I think our biggest challenge is philosophical, but that's neither here nor there. We love storytelling. And so we've got a good one from Blake let me just intro this real quick and I'll give you the floor. What'd you do?
That's what the CEO of my client wanted to know when they got about 900 emails in their inbox telling them that a new lead had been assigned to them.
Yeah, I think we've been there. I think it's important also to give some context with some of the operating principles that we have at RP. Fail forward moment, all of that, and is launched into this. So just you've already told people the AI thing. I want you to come out of this looking like a thought leader and not AI is bad. And I'm trying to give you a moment to save face here. So maybe I would start with that and then get into the story a little bit.
Yeah. So the good news is I fixed it.
There you go. And we need some applause. Do we have applause available in here? Hold on a minute. The audience is, there you go. Shout out for fixing it.
Yeah, so that's what I bring to the table with my IT background, is I've broken a lot of things a lot worse than this in a lot more public and embarrassing ways than this. So always know how to fix it is the moral of the story. I'll do the moral up front here.
Love it. You were causing certain people. Nelson was stressed out, so I'm just looking out for him. So it has a happy ending. But yeah, go into that a little bit more now. And
yeah. So one of the things that we do at Rev Partners when a new client comes on board, we have a new partner, is we want to make sure their lifecycle stages are correct. That's one of the biggest reporting humps to get over in HubSpot to actually make it useful. So a lot of times what we do is a reset. So we wipe all the lifecycle stages out and we bucket them out to where they're supposed to be based on where they're at in the sales and marketing process. One of the more terrifying things you can do because of this. So what I was doing was resetting lifecycle stages. And if we can share the screen here, yeah, I will show you exactly what I failed to consider. The lead functionality, the lead object, and the prospecting workspace in HubSpot is fairly new as of the last few months. And so I wasn't that familiar with it at the time, but there is this nice handy dandy automation that it turns on for you out of the box. Create a new lead when a contact moves to a lifecycle stage. I believe
how many hundreds?
Yeah. So I believe it's set to marketing qualified lead by default. And I dragged every single contact in their entire database through the marketing qualified lead lifecycle stage while this was turned on.
Oh, man.
A good chunk of them were assigned to their executive team for whatever reason. And so, yeah, they got a lot of leads assigned to them. And I wouldn't describe it as an angry email. This client is very, magnanimous, if that's the right word. Like they're very understanding about things, but they were a bit put off. But then I deleted all the leads, turned this off, and everything was fine.
And it turned into a training video for their team, maybe on Loom, how to not do that. Hopefully it's a happy ending, but there's also some positive deliverables that came out, even if it's just this. So
Right.
if you're going to tell somebody the first time, or as a reminder, like if you're doing X, make sure that Y. What does that message look like from you?
Yeah. So if the bigger picture is, if you're doing anything in HubSpot, make sure you're following along with the product updates and which ones have been turned on in your portal, which ones have been turned on in your instance. And yeah, if you are doing anything with lifecycle stages, just make sure that this is turned off, this setting in the lead object pipeline. And it's one of the things I appreciate about Rev Partners is I had no qualms about, as soon as I did this, sharing it with the entire company and saying, hey, everybody, just heads up, don't do what I did. Make sure you check this first. And you know what? 2 or 3 people chimed in and said, oh, you know what? I either did the same thing or almost did the same thing or did something similar to it. And it was a learning opportunity for everybody. So,
or in a lot of cases when I've seen that, and it's not just you. So I have done that in ClickUp, where we had a ClickUp Slack integration that sent a note. That was horrible. That was the death of an entire Slack channel for us. But I assume that people said thank you, like appreciate the feedback, and probably that is happening because of this new product update. Here's a quick walkthrough of how to avoid this for everybody else. Somebody maybe whoever was already on top of it with a solution and an updated best practice.
Yep, exactly. The playbooks, the docs that we use got updated immediately with this. Yeah, and everybody learned something.
I think we should almost debut a new sign-off segment, because this is so good, and I'm terrible at this too, and you're just too direct, which I think people appreciate for us not to attempt it. A lot of podcasts or broadcasts have a check out our newsletter, go to our site if you need RevOps help. Nelson, we need to add this to the roadmap for StreamYard updates, but if you could give like the world's most direct CTA, like even if it's something that doesn't point people to RevOps help in HubSpot. So CTA for me is, I don't know where you can follow Blake Cormier, but you should, if you like RevOps perspective from somebody who has been in IT and failed at things like this. Don't make the same mistakes as Blake. Give him a follow, right? Do you have anything like that to test out?
Let me think.
Also the world's longest CTA, probably.
That was pretty long. I think
until the end. Yeah,
I should shorten that down a little bit.
I almost do this for work, but not that part as well. So I'm taking feedback for myself here too.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes. I don't know.
We don't have the point is we just add value first without any expectation in return. Probably not the way to do it. There's plenty of places you can follow RP. If you don't know us, on LinkedIn, our website has a ton of stuff on it. This will be on YouTube and TikTok and LinkedIn. So we don't really, I would argue to myself, we don't really need a CTA, because people, they know the deal. It's one of those, what if you know things. Blake, thank you so much for doing this. Are you feeling better I know you had I feel like everything with COVID, I feel like there was some sickness or something going on, man, last time we talked.
Yeah, I had COVID, then I got the post-COVID cough, so I couldn't go more than 2 minutes without talking, without going into a coughing fit. Doing mostly better today. Managed to not hack up a lung during this session, which I'm sure everyone will appreciate.
Yeah, we do. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for checking in on me. I appreciate it.
We care about our people, our playbooks. That is RP, our people in our playbooks. Trying to figure out a way to make that a graphic. Nelson, add it to the doc. But Blake, thanks. We'll see you around the virtual workspace, and I can't wait for people to see this. I think people are going to get a lot of value from the 15 minutes they had with you actually showing what it is you do.
Thank you, Rob.